welcome into Surviving Paradise, the podcast that takes a sometimes serious, oftentimes humorous look at the claim by Jehovah's Witnesses that they are living in a modern-day spiritual paradise. I'm your host here, Stacy Bauman, former witness, elder, ministerial servant, little guy raised as a witness in the unique generations of the 70s and 80s. As I do, quick warning for anyone new, we try to have some fun here while at the same time healing. Each episode has sarcasm, humor, and my own brand of observation. But please note, we're not here trying to offend people. Not at all. It is a rare blessing that we get to consider JW broadcasting in back-to-back episodes on this show. But here we are. Based on timing, travel, and a whole bunch of other stuff, I'm going to get my take on the November JW broadcast out of the way early this month. And listen, full disclaimer, I'm prone to hyperbole and dramatics, and I know it. It's just my personality. So bear with me as I say that this month's spiritual feast from the governing body is special in its own way. You might be thinking, why is that? I've watched a lot of them. You're likely thinking there may be some new light or an announcement that changes the course of human history. But nope, sorry to disappoint. It's special because it's hosted by noted liar and perjurer, also a future king judging you and I for all of our own sins, that guy known as Geoffrey Jackson. I will forever consider his presence as special, considering most of us, or many of us, have seen him lying to the world on the stand, under oath, in the beautiful country of Australia, and it's forever immortalized on film. And just in case there is a Jehovah's Witness that has somehow wandered into the show and has no idea what I'm talking about, you'd be shocked how many don't. Governing body guy Geoffrey Jackson was subpoenaed to the Australian Royal Commission when it was discovered Jehovah's organization was hiding well over 1,000 cases of child abuse in the country. This landmark occasion took place in Sydney during the summer of 2015. To say that I watched this commission with eager anticipation is a big understatement. Most will remember that the would-be king was asked if the governing body of Jehovah's Witnesses was the sole spokesman for God here on earth, if they alone spoke for the Almighty Jehovah. And his response was one that took a religion well over 100 years of age and burned it to the ground in one sentence. And I'm serious. King Geoffrey Jackson, our host this month, said this to the authorities in Australia, quote, "That, I think, would seem to be quite presumptuous to say that we are the only spokesperson that God is using." End quote. Okay. And this week we've got our first atrocious lie. And apparently at that moment, the Holy Spirit dropped its signal for a few seconds because he sounds really smart when just seconds later he contradicts himself and says, quote, "We view ourselves as trying to fulfill that role." End quote. Well, Geoffrey, dear Geoffrey, you're contradicting yourself, and it will forever be immortalized. It's infamous. And yes, if for some reason you're just learning of this, a member of the governing body and host of the 2025 November JW broadcast took an oath, and of course, as a witness to all the nations, as Paul said, told the world that it would be presumptuous to say that the governing body alone speaks for Jehovah. And it never gets old. Why? Well, Jehovah's Witnesses know that they're reminded at every meeting, in every conversation, every publication, and everything else Jehovah's Witness that the governing body, including this guy, Geoff Jackson, are the only spokesman in the known universe for Jehovah himself. It's in print. Apparently, our host completely forgot. He just forgot the very foundation of his entire religion. Oh, and he also said this. See if you can spot the irony, by the way, or more appropriately, that one of Jesus' chosen kings is outright lying. It comes to us from the June 1st, 2001 Watchtower, pages 16 and 17, paragraph 17, where ironically, just like the Australian Royal Commission asked Geoff Jackson, a similar question was posed right down to the wording. It says this, quote, "Why is it not presumptuous of Jehovah's Witnesses to point out that they have the true religion?" The answer, quote, "Is it presumptuous of Jehovah's Witnesses to point out that they alone have God's backing? Actually, no more so than when the Israelites in Egypt claimed to have God's backing in spite of the Egyptians' belief, or when first-century Christians claimed to have God's backing to the exclusion of Jewish religionists. The facts speak for themselves. In 235 lands, Jehovah's Witnesses are doing the work Jesus foretold that his true followers would be doing in the time of the end. And then they quote Matthew 24:14, end quote. And to that I say, it's been an awkward few years since 2015. Oh no, Jeff. And just one more before we move on, because I can't help myself, and because all of this is this religion's central teaching. And I could go on and on for months, but no one wants to hear it. From the Watchtower of July 15th, 2013, page 20, we are told, quote, "That faithful slave," Geoff Jackson and the governing body, "is," quote, the channel through which Jesus is feeding his true followers in this time of the end. It is vital that we recognize the faithful slave. Our spiritual health and our relationship with God depends on this channel, end quote. So, call me presumptuous, but a balanced person would expect to see Jehovah's Witnesses evaporate as a religion by the next morning after Geoff Jackson's testimony in Australia. But, well, here we are. You can actually see Jehovah's Witnesses celebrating all things governing body and the organization on TikTok now, building kingdom halls, even movie studios. But don't let the fact that one of the most important men in the universe just took an oath and lied to that same universe, and that evidently there may be other people speaking for Jehovah on the planet. We're just not sure who they are, and Jeff couldn't tell Australia either. And so this leads me to where we're at today, in November 2025, and we get a full JW broadcast hosted by the king that openly lies to the universe. No reason to be concerned, though, so settle in. Because there's nothing groundbreaking this month. I wish there was. But we will be guided through the broadcast by the guy most known for lying. In order to not be bored out of my mind, I must say, I'm going to be playing a game of Spot the Lie. Okay, just join me. I got to keep this interesting throughout this entire episode, Spot the Lie. While it's more of the same for Jehovah's Witnesses, what stood out to me most in this month's broadcast, I know it's not a shock, was the overt dishonesty, the veiled innuendo, the outright claims that are wrong, and so much more. I know I got to keep it interesting, but it's like a thread running throughout every segment of the broadcast, from the talks and even the regular features like digging for treasure, and even the absolutely absurd music video that ends each broadcast. So let's dive in. Our kingly host, Brother Jeff, Jackson, if you're nasty, starts with a world class illustration. In subdued form, he delivers on the absurdity from his introduction. He asks the audience, quote, "Have you ever been so busy or engrossed in a project that you suddenly experience an intense feeling in your stomach?" End quote. I played along as I watched, and I said out loud, "Yeah, most recently, when I read your updates to the Secret Elder's Handbook, I felt a little sick in my stomach." But, well, that's not what Jeff means. He continues his illustration by saying, quote, "What is it?" You mean the feeling, Jeff? From the "I can act like a child when you speak to me like a child" department, I answered by saying, "Well, I've got diarrhea and need to find a toilet." You see, I'm a boy. But nope. Jeff continues by saying, "Yes, it's probably hunger. Your body is telling you it's time to eat. That's a normal feeling." End quote. Wow, this isn't new light. I want to confirm this isn't new light. And so if you at this point would like to turn off this episode, here is your off ramp. Because this entire 2025 update is a feat for those that like to be intellectually insulted by what we're told is the smartest man on earth. He's our teacher and is drenched in Holy Spirit. But yeah, I'm settling in for some spiritual food when it only gets worse by Jeff saying, quote, "Hunger alerts us. Without it, we would perhaps neglect our personal need for food, which could lead to serious problems." End quote. I'm feeling smarter already. I'm going to ask the audience, has the level of infantile illustrations and reasoning just gotten worse the past 10 years, or is it me? Because a man that will soon judge the most complex of matters, whether each of us unique human beings on this earth, with all our imperfections, all our mistakes, all our genetics, all our foibles, if we deserve to live forever in his paradise. That's what this guy is going to be doing soon. And he's starting strong with the kind of wisdom you can apparently only find in Jehovah's Witnesses. Your tummy rumbles. You might be hungry. You better eat, because bad things could happen. If your stomach gurgles, it might mean you're hungry. Who knew? What would we do without Jeff? I now wonder if my mother is anointed, because I learned this as a baby and somehow she knew how to feed me. It was time to eat. I started crying. The wisdom of the faithful and discreet slave, folks, and witnesses are just gobbling this up. But, folks, it's just the beginning of an organization that I think is rapidly disintegrating. Okay, full disclosure, I just lost all power in the studio and I'm returning after some time without electricity. So I'm going to pick up and do my best to edit this where possible, but interesting challenge, not one I've had before. So let's jump back in to the wisdom of the faithful and discreet slave. But folks, as I was mentioning, to me, this is the beginning of an organization that's disintegrating. And the insanity in this broadcast just continues in the very next words out of Geoffrey's mouth. Are you ready for this? Geoffrey says, quote, "Unfortunately, today, hundreds of millions of people can't satisfy their hunger properly because of a lack of food or resources. For them, hunger is a constant problem. End quote. Yes, if you're anything like me, I immediately found the repulsive irony in a man who is building a multi-million-dollar movie studio in upstate New York on camera, confirming that millions of people are starving on this planet, even as he does nothing to offer resources or help them. This guy, the guy, our host, who's going to judge the rest of us, he sleeps just fine at night after night, in the reality that people are starving, and he and his 10 men, the most important and powerful men in the universe, are doing nothing to help them. And in fact, it's worse than that. He openly asks for these same people in these same countries to donate what little they do have to him. But isn't your stomach growling? I mean, that means you're hungry. Isn't this a cute illustration? I mean, starving people or people not eating makes for a great introduction to the 2025 November JW broadcast. And gee, where could this be going? I'm sure you have no idea. Let's see. We got hunger. We got warnings of danger if we don't eat. I mean, where can I find food to eat, Jeff? Okay. You seem really broken up about those millions of people physically starving today. And you show that you're very concerned in your next remark. He pauses, thank you teleprompter by the way, and says this, quote, "But whatever our situation, we all agree that hunger alerts us to a basic need, the need for food," end quote. Well, yeah, yes it does. I'm hungry, I need food. This is really something. But you do seem a little dismissive of the fact that millions of people during this broadcast are going to starve to death. And I picked up on it when you said, quote, "Not kidding." After saying all this, he says this, "Not kidding," end quote. "But whatever our situation," end quote. Okay, but whatever. Maybe we should talk about people starving, Jeff. Nah, okay then. How's the movie studio coming along? And so it begins with this entire broadcast. The lying and the lack of self-awareness, and when they collide. And I'm not reaching here. I'm going to take examples out of almost every part that I cover here. I know it goes without saying. It's all you can do with this religion. But I'm only human, and some of these broadcasts just hit me differently. One big set of lies, hypocrisy, innuendo, and more. The rest of Geoffrey Jackson's talk focuses on hunger. Or should I repeat what he said? Quote, "There is another type of hunger that people are totally unaware of," end quote. Yeah, I wonder what that could be. Blah, blah, blah. And the audience is sent back to their Life of Jesus video shots, showing Jesus walking in the wilderness during his 40-day fast. And he finally, after 40 days, he finally gets hungry, says Jeff. And I think I see where this might be going. How about you? Not to be confused, by the way, with my guy Noah watching it rain for, look at that, 40 days. Or Moses living, oh, look at that, 40 years in Egypt. Oh, what? He lived for 40 years in the wilderness too? Nor Elijah's 40 days, or Jonah's 40 days. I could keep going. You see, folks, the number 40 is just one big coincidence from the Bible writers. And this is confirmed in the broadcast because even Satan loves the number 40. The English accented son of darkness is seen in the video. You remember from the summer convention. He apparently waited until the magical, how odd, 40th day to appear when Jesus looked hungry. Where Geoffrey Jackson makes his point, quoting Jesus about bread being good. But look, we can't just live on bread. We have to live on every word out of Jehovah's mouth. We have all heard this talk before. We must hang on Jehovah's every word to answer all questions in life. The future king breaks into his next illustration when he says, quote, people who have had their basic physical needs met and much more feel as though they're dying of thirst while floating at sea. What? They're surrounded by water, but it's of no use to them. Something is missing in their lives. They inwardly crave something to make their lives worthwhile. Eventually, many of these ones give up hope and feel that there is no purpose to life. End quote. And I gotta say, Jeff, that escalated quickly. I thought they were just thirsty, but now they're at sea and they feel empty and their life has no purpose. All of this is just more of the same mundane misapplication of a hodgepodge of Bible verses that he offers. He's leading us along the path that ends in the same place it always does. You know, them, the organization of Jehovah's Witnesses. But his next illustration is truly interesting and, might I add, in my opinion, grossly misplaced, because he's full of illustrations during this talk, by the way, where he says, quote, would you choose to fly with whose company just refuels its airplanes but never does any maintenance work? Of course not. You know, the planes may be fine for a while, but sooner or later, there will be dangerous consequences. It's dangerous to go through life taking only care of our physical needs and not our spiritual needs. End quote. There it is. He drones on about feeding ourselves spiritually every day. He even admits this is old news and been heard many times by Jehovah's Witnesses before. He says it. But then, and I didn't see this part coming, Brother Jackson, in a stunning lack of self-awareness or humility, take your pick, takes this whole eating, drinking, and airplane refueling illustrations to a level I think is just a little too far and insensitive. He compares problems with neglecting his spiritual food. I still can't believe it. He compares them to eating disorders. And look, I get it. I might be nitpicking on this one. Guilty. But for anyone that has someone that they love that may deal with an eating disorder, and frankly, I do, can tell you it's a very sensitive subject. I think I would have left it out. Not to mention, there might be someone watching the broadcast that is themselves dealing with the trauma of an eating disorder. And he's about to launch into how missing a Watchtower study is as serious as an eating disorder. So I'm suddenly a little uncomfortable, and it all gets so much worse when he makes his own correlation with something deeply painful. Yeah, the whole spiritual eating disorder thing. I mean, really? He continues by pumping up their delicious, I can't say it big enough like him, spiritual food that you and I have at our fingertips, and includes taking notes and encourages taking notes and to review our notes from time to time, because we all like to chew our food, spit it out, and re-eat it, right? I had a flashback at this part of the segment to all those summer conventions and the pages and pages and pages, I don't know how many trees I killed, of notes that I took at those conventions just to stay awake in between lifesavers. The cartoon faces, you remember, were you like me? I doodle cartoon faces during another symposium on 607 BCE. And frankly, folks, I can't remember a single thing from those notes, nothing. But he jolts me back to my senses by then shaming me, He says, quote, "How sad it would be if someone were to ask us after a meeting or a session of personal study, what delicious points did you find? And for us to reply with a blank, stunned look on our face," end quote. And I know the look he speaks of. I get it often watching their stuff. You can also get it at a book cart. Just walk up to a Jehovah's Witness and ask them to explain overlapping generations. That look he's talking about, that blank, stunned look, you'll get it at your local book cart. Give it a shot. He just described literally every post-meeting conversation I probably ever had. What delicious points did you find in the meeting tonight? Well, I mean, this isn't even how Jehovah's Witnesses speak. I just tried to stay awake. I got a crush on that sister over there. I can't wait to get out of here and eat. I mean, on and on. But I'll tell you, when it comes to food, I'm going to insert my own illustration. And especially, I'm moving off eating disorders, if you haven't figured that out. Especially when it comes to their version of spiritual food. So I'm going to start with a question. Who remembers vanilla wafers? Anybody? Vanilla wafers. Am I in a safe place? Am I with safe people? Because I'm just going to be blunt here. I hate them. I don't know how anybody can like vanilla wafers. I mean, granted, open a jar of peanut butter maybe and stick it. I don't know. I hate vanilla wafers. I mean, seriously, what are those things? I don't even want to know how they're made. They're like a bland, hard wood chip or something. I couldn't stand it. Hey, come over to my house after school, serving up a plate of vanilla wafers. What? And I am here to tell you, by the way, they're great for hockey in the streets too, by the way, and don't chip your teeth. God, those things are awful. But every meeting of Jehovah's Witnesses, to me, was a lot like eating vanilla wafers. I'm just going to build on Jeff's illustration here. This talk in itself is what I would call a vanilla wafer. Ever notice how you would force yourself to ignore that they were almost stale when you ate them? And how about that feeling? Come on, there's got to be at least one person out there. That feeling you would get on the top of your mouth, like you had just eaten soggy paper, or it's just that film. It was just gross. You would brush your teeth 5 times, and you would still have vanilla wafer coating in your mouth, and even chunks in your teeth. I'm exposing myself. No girl's going to kiss me in 8th grade with these things. I mean, chunks of vanilla wafers. I kept waiting for Brother Jackson on this whole spiritual food thing to throw out a manna reference. Didn't do it. So I'm going to come at him with vanilla wafers. The meetings and assemblies of Jehovah's Witnesses are like vanilla wafers. Bland, stale, past their expiration date. Everyone ignores them for the better Oreos. And there is nothing spiritually delicious about any of them. A big sorry, Jeff, you're serving up vanilla wafers. And furthermore, if you're a Jehovah's Witness, go ahead and eat vanilla wafers at every damn meal for the rest of your life. And get back to me. Do it for decades. You're going to be thrilled. When I see you, though, as he says in this talk, I'm going to ask you, what delicious points did you find? Tell me, how was your 10 millionth 144,000 vanilla wafer? See what I did there? I think you do. Was it good? Tell me what tasty things you found. Because, folks, that is exactly what the meetings of Jehovah's Witnesses are like. Take it from a former elder, and I especially hated the service meeting, who had to come up with some creative way to talk about return visits for the 40,000th time. The same stale thing over and over and over and over. You get the idea. I mean, consider the fact that this very week, at the time of this podcast, Jehovah's Witnesses are staving off their spiritual hunger by considering the modern version of my book of Bible stories at the meeting this week. Not only do Jehovah's Witnesses want more vanilla wafers, but they love vanilla wafers, especially when you mush it into baby food and you feed it to them on a little spoon. Because that is what grown adults and witnesses of decades are getting at the Kingdom Hall this week. Like I said at the outset, there's nothing new this month. Just more of the same insulting stuff they always serve up. At one point, he even encourages Jehovah's Witnesses to use the moment when charging their cell phones as a reminder that they also need to recharge their spiritual batteries. Man, he is just coming with the illustrations. Childish, cheesy, and not at all what you would expect from someone who claims to represent the greatest teacher that has ever lived. But here we are. Food, water, airplane refueling, and charging your phone. And I found myself thinking, well, I guess if I work at it, I could picture Jesus telling the apostles to use that time they're out, digging that hole out back in private after eating food to squat and get rid of it, to also think about digging for treasures in the Bible. This is the level of reasoning Jehovah's Witnesses are getting. And again, week 2, how was I ever a Jehovah's Witness? I don't know. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. And they're all great analogies, according to Geoffrey Jackson, for spiritual food and that rumbling in your stomach. And by the way, where do you get this food? Yeah, only through Mr. Jackson. He drones on and on about eating every day or eating too quickly. He really gets some life out of this thing. He wants to know what our spiritual diet is like. And despite how dumb this talk is, he does something that I think is really profound. It might be my favorite part of this whole meeting. He says this, quote, "Spirituality is a personal possession, a quality that takes time to cultivate. No one can eat for us. We must do this ourselves." End quote. Profound. There it is. The biggest lie of all in the November 2025 broadcast. One of the leaders of a notably high-control religion that for decades told grown men what parts of their body to shave, or told us how to think, or who to marry, or what music to listen to, or how we shouldn't get vasectomies, or how long a sister's skirt should be, or what color of hair a sister was allowed to have. This guy just got on camera and told the universe that spirituality is deeply personal and that no one can tell us what it looks like, and that no one else but ourselves can cultivate it. Do you think there's a single Jehovah's Witness watching this that will catch any of this? I can confirm spirituality is indeed, and by the way, it includes your sins, your thoughts, your motive. I can confirm that they are indeed deeply personal. And at no point or in any location in their holy book is someone told that they are controlled or that they are the possession of an organization. But what do you expect to hear from a man that is a notorious liar? Geoffrey Jackson. The same man that got on the world stage took an oath with his hand on the Bible, and yes, you can see that for yourself online, and then lied, claiming it would be presumptuous to think that they alone speak for God, even as they say that they alone speak for God in billions of pages of literature. So this month, the now infamous liar is again lying on camera. Spirituality is indeed deeply personal, and no one can cultivate it for you. It's a lot like, to borrow an illustration I recently heard, eating. Yeah. But is he sure he wants to say this? Because this same guy also says this right from his own library at that website we all know. From Examining the Scriptures Daily, March 4th, 2012, quote, however, we cannot hope to acquire a good relationship with Jehovah if we ignore those whom Jesus has appointed to care for his belongings. End quote. Where's that personal part? Never mind. Quote, without the assistance of the faithful and discreet slave, we would neither understand the full import of what we read in God's word, nor know how to apply it. End quote. Wait a minute. I thought I could eat for myself. I thought spirituality was deeply personal. But you're telling me even if I eat without you feeding it to me, I can't taste it? I won't even know what I'm eating? It continues. The August 1st, 2001 Watchtower, page 14, quote, a mature Christian, interesting, it's in parentheses, continues, does not advocate or insist on personal opinions or harbor private ideas when it comes to Bible understanding. Rather, he has complete confidence in the fact that he can feed himself. Backing up, quote, in the truth as it is revealed by Jehovah God through his Son, Jesus Christ, and the faithful and discreet slave. End quote. So I'm still not feeding myself. Okay, December 1st, 1990 Watchtower, page 19, quote, we have the opportunity to show love for our brothers who take the lead in the congregation or in connection with Jehovah's visible organization worldwide. This includes being loyal to the faithful and discreet slave. Let us face the fact that no matter how much Bible reading we have done, we would never have learned the truth on our own. We would not have discovered the truth regarding Jehovah, his purposes and his attributes, the meaning and importance of his name, the kingdom, Jesus' ransom, the difference between God's organization and Satan's, nor why God has permitted wickedness. End quote. Oh, okay. Spirituality and eating is deeply personal, but there's 3 references right there that says I can't eat without you. And finally, one of my all-time favorites from the June 1st Watchtower of 1967, my birth year, page 338, where he said this, quote, this one is, quote, in Jehovah's organization, it is not necessary to spend a lot of time and energy in research or eating, to go with Jeff's illustration, back to the quote, for there are brothers in the organization who are assigned to do that very thing. They're going to eat for us, folks. Back to the quote, to help you who do not have so much time for this. Well, I'm going to make time to eat. These preparing the good material in the Watchtower and other publications of the Society. End quote. Keep it, bookmark it. June 1st, 1967, Watchtower. Don't think for yourself. Don't study. You're never going to figure anything out without us anyway, no matter how much time you spend on it. Doesn't that all sound very personal? It sounds more like we're babies in the high chair again, and I need Geoffrey Jackson and his 10 best friends to make airplane sounds and feed me with a spoon. Am I missing something? I'm reading from their literature. From the guys that claim that my spirituality is wholly dependent on him and again his 10 best friends known as the governing body, with the last reference I just read you being my favorite. Because he just told me I can't and I should not ever try to feed myself. Even as he says during the JW broadcast of November 2025 that I should try to feed myself. Yes, the man and the men assigned by Jesus to teach the rest of us, just going on camera and completely crashing out on his own illustration. But in reality, folks, he's not crashing out. He's not bombing. He's just lying. Which this particular guy has turned into an art form. But he is really hyped up to tell us about food, spirituality, and never forgetting to charge your cell phone. Because all of those things point, well, if you want to, they also can point to him. But then again, so does the book of Revelation, so does all of its dragons, so does the Bible's fruit trees, so does all the monsters in the Bible, so does rain, a whole host of other things. They always point back to the same place, them. At one point, he does encourage everyone to make good use of their quiet time, including that moment or time that we spend laying in bed. And what should we do with that quiet time, Jeff? Well, he tells us in the broadcast to use quiet time to think about, them. Them again. And at no point when he's staring into the camera reading off the teleprompter does he realize the paradox. Quiet time, Jeff, can't be quiet time if I'm using it to think about Jehovah's Witnesses. Quiet time is the time I take to not think about Jehovah's Witnesses. It's all so bad. It's just so bad. Quiet time isn't quiet time. Never mind. And at this point, I'm bailing on this portion of the 2025 November broadcast and this talk. It's absurd, insulting, and it's stupid. It's also boring. It's just boring. So let's move on to the next segment of this month's broadcast. And again, see in this segment if you can spot the lie. They move us along, the audience, to the branch dedication in Britain. The new branch, did you know? Jeff says he wants to show us, quote, the positive effects of volunteering to work on the project and what they did to the workers, end quote. You don't say. Of course you want to show us this. Free labor by talented people is in fact very positive if you're the governing body. We are treated to a drone shot in a beautiful lush green landscape in Britain of their latest real estate project. The music swells, and look at that, a familiar face. Ronald Curzon, the helper to the teaching committee, you know, the guy that has a hand in writing these amazing broadcasts, wants to show us how free labor and your donated money, how it's going in Britain. We see videos being filmed. It's a montage, by the way. Yeah, I guess apparently they have movie sets in Britain. Who knew? And even a couple of brothers jamming out with their own band. There's a guitar, there's drum, there's people eating. It looks like a party. And yeah, as I watched it, I immediately thought of the scene in Pinocchio, where the boys are on Pleasure Island being fed, laughing, and jamming out to music, only to find out by the end that they're really being turned into a bunch of jackasses. That's what came into my mind. It's an insane scene, their latest real estate project. Aren't you proud of it? We're introduced to Brother Robert Lee of the Britain Branch Committee, who says the absurd. He says, quote, Jehovah obviously saw that a project of this nature could really encourage our brothers and sisters, end quote. Did he now? I hate to point out the obvious, guys, and I don't particularly think I'm a cynic. Well, that's not true. I'm a cynic. But as millions of people are dying from disease and a host of other things, or have none of that physical food Jeff already told us they didn't have, you'd want us to think that Jehovah thought, hey, let's encourage mostly affluent and stable people in Britain by building them a new branch office. This is sure to inspire everybody. Really? Are you sure? Because I got to tell you something. There's so many things wrong with that statement by Brother Lee, but I plan, this is going to be a plan, on approaching the next two Jehovah's Witnesses I run across standing out front of a book cart and asking them to share with me how encouraged they are by the new British branch office. I'd like them to tell me what it means to them. And look, prepare to learn that the two people you run into at a book cart, unless you're in Britain, are likely to know nothing about it. But even if they did, how inspiring it must be to know that the governing body is building several state-of-the-art facilities, even as they expect Armageddon to hit any second now. Truly inspiring. And at one point during this interview, actually, I believe it's Mark Sanderson, don't have it in front of me, he mentions he can't wait to see how things turn out in 5 to 10 years. Oopsie. We just admitted that this system's going to be here a while. It's truly incredible. I mentioned at the outset the lack of self-awareness, the dishonesty. There's not a guy on this group that goes, we better clean this up. We better clean this up. 5 to 10 years from now? Mark, are you... I thought I was giving up everything because it could hit any second. Let's build another building. It's just nuts, folks. It's just nuts. Several interviews happen, and one includes what I consider to be a really interesting fact. Allow me to share. The same Brother Lee in the interview says, quote, some of the trees on site are well over 300 years old, so extra care was shown to make sure they weren't damaged, end quote. Yeah, sure, I got a weird brain. I thought, yeah, you didn't question that, huh, Brother Lee? We've been here over 300 years. Never mind. They were here, of course, before Jesus even chose this organization, the trees, that is. And I'm sure this whole segment, go watch for yourselves, form your own opinion, isn't an overt message to environmentalists or those guys that give you building permits, especially after you are the same organization that was caught dumping printing ink into this same earth. Didn't think about the trees then, in upstate New York. You remember, Brother Lee, it was 2007. You were caught dumping 55-gallon drums containing benzene, xylene, and other toxic chemicals hazardous to human health on your Paradise property in Wallkill. You might remember, if no one's told you, Brother Lee, as you look at those 300-year-old trees, that they found drums of hazardous chemicals at 3 different sites across Wallkill's 1,141 acre property. You were dumping chemicals into the environment. But you did save these trees in Britain. Golly. And also, while I'm on this bent, how about a quick question for you and your 11 bosses? Are you even remotely concerned with what your book says at Revelation 11:8? You know, the same God that helped you build the British branch office, save the 300-year-old trees, but turned the other way when you dumped several hazardous chemicals in multiple locations in Wallkill, New York. I don't know if you know what Revelation 11:8 says, but it has something to say about God personally killing those that are ruining his earth. It's odd. I'll take your answer off the air. But during this segment, a segment that is clearly designed to speak to those worldly people that are in control of building permits and also the environmentalists in all sorts of countries, it goes on to take credit for the return of wildlife to this property around the branch office. They show us ducks, badgers, deers, bunnies. It's because they restored the land. And one brother is seen there saying, quote, "It gives us a glimpse into what paradise will be like," end quote. Oh, yeah. I got to tell you, needless to say, I was pissed. Yeah, I was mad. I love trees, but it wasn't about the trees. I was mad because there wasn't a single word or credit given to the guy that made this wildlife possible. I know. My guy Noah. How dare Brother Lee, this other brother, or Geoffrey Jackson forget to give credit where credit's due to the guy that gathered all these animals and also shoveled piles of their poo out the window of the ark for over a year or better. They don't even give my guy any credit. They just take credit for, rebuilding the environment with their building. But in wrapping all of this up, Brother Lee says it all when he says this, quote, "But what was even more encouraging was seeing how Jehovah used this project to train and enthuse his servants," end quote. Sure. It even concludes with a young brother showing the level of brainwashing, the deceit, the delusion that Jehovah's Witnesses live under. This young brother says, quote, "When you're here, you feel like you're just building. But when you get back, you realize that it was a project genuinely for us," end quote. What? They use these kids for free labor, for resources, and they even get them to believe they were doing it all for them anyway. Do I need to point out, after all the laughter and sarcasm, how evil this is? Even as they give their money, their time, their talents, and their labor to this organization, they walk away from it all believing it was all for them anyway. And look, it's just evil. You would marvel at how successful this organization has been at stealing souls for their benefit. I just marvel at it. And with that, the governing body real estate infomercial section of the broadcast is complete. Your money, your free labor, and Jehovah watching on even as 40,000 people died from famine today. And we're all supposed to be encouraged. We're supposed to be excited. Let's move on. I can't cover the entire broadcast, so I'm going to kind of smash it all together for a minute. We get an interview with a brother that had a bad temper, and he used to beat people up. I'm going to save you the diatribe. You know who saved him, and suddenly he's a gentle guy today. We're then moved along to a talk by Brother Robert Ekron. He's going to give us the discussion of the morning text this month. He's going to tell Jehovah's Witnesses that they need to be teachable. And without question in my mind, it's all aimed at Jehovah's Witnesses' vulnerabilities and just being willing to expose themselves to the governing body's manipulation. It's a highly insulting and super boring talk that, to be honest, is filled with stuff that you would overlook if you get swept away in his monotone voice. It should be dissected for an hour, this talk. I know it seems weird. Go watch it. I'm not going to do it. We don't have time. But it goes down, at least right now as of today, prone to hyperbole, as an all-timer in lack of self-awareness, including the fact that Rob tells us pride keeps us from admitting we don't understand things the first time we hear them. Rob, check the mirror. And while you're at it, bring the 11 guys on the governing body with you to the mirror. But then Ekron does it. Then it happens. And I'm going to make spotting the lie here just too easy by giving it to you. He goes on a rant about Jehovah's Witnesses asking questions when they don't understand something they've been taught. Like I said, I want to go for an hour on this talk. He says Jesus actually wants us to ask questions. Yeah, folks, on second thought, I'm going to come back to this talk. But it looks like a nothing burger on the surface, and beneath the surface, it's a haymaker. Asking questions? Seriously. I'll summarize this little part by saying, in a word, asking questions about things they teach that you don't understand is a fast track to shunning and being labeled a son of Satan. Jehovah's Witnesses are not allowed to ask questions. This is a much bigger talk than you think, and they're getting out in front of stuff. And they did it by giving it to a very boring speaker, and they buried it in a very boring broadcast. But the message is clear. Oh, yeah, we have no problem with you asking questions. Really? Why would a Jehovah's Witness ever even need to ask a question on overlapping generations? Why would they need to ask a question as to why we're still here in the 21st century? Or why would we even be curious as to why Jesus is suddenly okay with not seeing the sister's legs anymore? I mean, Brother Ekron, your organization said this. From the Watchtower of August 15th, 2014, page 21, we're told, quote, in effect, Jesus also conveys Jehovah's voice to us as he directs the congregation through the faithful and discreet slave. We need to take this guidance and direction seriously, for our everlasting life depends on our obedience, end quote. If I'm reading that correctly, Brother Ekron and Geoff Jackson, you guys claim to speak for Jehovah. So why would we ever question anything? I want to go off on a tangent. I'll save it. This is all so much bigger in my opinion, and it is in fact a lie. Because again, questioning the governing body or what we're taught by Jehovah's Witnesses is not allowed. Period. And the fact that he says and has a segment saying, oh, ask questions, is a downright deceitful lie. I want to use a few seconds to wind this summary up by covering the music video that, as we've come to know, is at the end of every JW broadcast. So I'm going to push this along. The standard segment is found again this month, Dig for Treasures. It's now an every month episode. This month's on Obadiah. It's the shortest book in the Old Testament. Some may know that. But as you might have managed or imagine, they still manage to be very, what did Geoffrey Jackson call it in Australia again? What did he call it? Oh, to be very presumptuous by taking us into the mind of Obadiah himself a guy no one knows if he really existed, and I guarantee no one in this broadcast ever knew. But they're going to tell us what he was thinking. And it's not presumptuous. It's not presumptuous now. Come on now. It's comically bad. Next month, we're going to build an entire segment around Goofy, and he's going to explain to us why he wears pants, but Pluto doesn't. Stay tuned. Dig for treasures. There's your summary. And now for something that truly made me sick. This month's music video. I don't even really know how to set this up in an audio format, because the segment right before the music video is about a brother who gives up his career as a decorated opera singer. Okay, remember that. Segment right before the music video, I bailed on being a famous opera singer. He suffers from OCD, I feel you, buddy, and depression. But he bails on his dream of singing to become a Jehovah's Witness, getting baptized in 2020. So I'm mentioning that for a reason. This is all bad enough, but this segment is followed. Right after he gives up his opera singer career, is followed by the music video we get every month, ironically featuring a sister who is clearly a gifted and trained ballerina dancer. Excuse me? I'm going to just confess right now that the music video was painful to watch for me. Not for the reasons I give every month. The song is awful. It always is. But I'm confessing that I sat there with my mouth open, watching this cute sister dance as a ballerina, a trained ballerina, throughout the video. I could speak to the video itself, which looks a lot like those old commercials for teenagers on Saturday afternoons back in the 70s. Someone dances through the room in different scenes to show what they're going through. But here, this is the part that just had me. Again, I just listened to a guy tell me he gave up opera singing, only to watch an attractive young woman, who, by the way, is a very good dancer, now using her skills as a dancer for the organization. She is the main part of the music video. There are sets, transitions, Hollywood-like film work. And I got to be honest, I realized I was sitting there. I don't know any other way to describe it because it's so nuanced, but I was in pain. I guess that's the best way to say it. They show this young woman, this sister, praying. She's already wearing her ballet slippers. And she goes on to pray to Jehovah, and he moves her to dance. And look, full disclosure, I welled up with tears. I've done it on the show. She dances by book carts. She dances through a baptism. She elegantly dances in a paradise. This sister is good. She's graceful. She's pretty. She even dances at one point through someone dying in the hospital. And this sister that they've chosen for the video is clearly enjoying this. You can see it in her eyes. This sister probably wanted to be a ballet dancer her entire life. And now she gets to do it. And you can see the joy. She gets a final dance solo as the music video concludes. The song, by the way, is all about prayer, but I couldn't even hear it through my visceral rage. I know I'm dramatic. Come at me. I don't care. It is what it is. I am dramatic. I'm being honest. I was filled with rage. For those hurting out there or trying to figure this all out or have left and are lonely, anything, I'm here to admit that even after years of therapy and being free of Jehovah's Witnesses for 16 years, it only took this music video to trigger the anger and the resentment that still lives in me. I literally only snapped out of my strange shock of watching her dance after a, sounds like I am dramatic, a single tear rolled down my cheek. And it jolted me. I realized I am a long way, if ever, healed from the damage done by this evil cult. This sister was talented. She's clearly really good. She's beautiful. She had so much happiness dancing for them. But I found myself wondering if she herself had studied her own literature or even knew what she had dedicated her life to. We know what she gave up. She was clearly a dancer. Is she familiar with this? From the Watchtower of April 15th, 2014, page 4, paragraph 7, where we're told, quote, "But will faith in God's promises move you to store up for a temporary future as a ballerina or an everlasting one?" That question faced a talented ballet dancer named Sophie. She was offered scholarships and coveted positions at ballet companies across the United States. It was thrilling to be adored. In fact, I felt superior to my peers, she admits, but I was unhappy. Then Sophie watched the video, "Young People Ask, What Will I Do with My Life?" I realized that the world had given me success and the adoration of fans in exchange for my wholehearted worship of Jehovah, she says. I prayed fervently to him. Then I quit my dancing career. How does she feel about her decision? I don't miss my old life. Today, I am 100% happy. I pioneer with my husband. We're not famous, and we have very little materially, but we have Jehovah, Bible students, and spiritual goals. I don't have any regrets. End quote. I don't know anyone 100% happy. But I'll just say that we have another nameless sister claiming she's happy. We can't ask her about having regrets. And even 11 years after what I just read you was printed, I couldn't help but wonder if she was watching this beautiful young sister now perform ballet on video for the governing body. I couldn't help but wonder how she feels about that, or if she still wants to tell us she has no regrets. What a beautiful young sister this girl is. The smile, the joy in her eyes as she dances in this video. She really enjoys ballet. And they took it from her. They took it all away. Now she can only dance for them in their music videos, probably this one time. My God, these men ruin lives. They ruin people. They destroy young, talented people. They trample their dreams and their talents underfoot, and then they smile about it or use it for their own gains as they look into a camera. It is unquestionably pure, unadulterated evil. Soon, this beautiful sister you watch in this music video this month, she'll be just another elderly woman who secretly looks back with regret. Her body's going to age. She won't be able to dance. And she will realize she was fooled by 11 men she barely knew that are likely all gone themselves. She'll have this music video to look back on, but that's it. The rest of it was all a lie. An incredibly evil lie. As odd as it sounds, I encourage you to go watch this music video. I would love to get other people's opinion. Truthfully, I really would. For me now, it enters the Hall of Fame and is on par with my feelings about every single Caleb and Sophia series video they release. If you really question whether the governing body of Jehovah's Witnesses is dumb or evil, you're clearly not paying attention. You're just not paying attention. And don't feel bad. Neither was I. But pay attention. And with that, folks, I'm going to bail on the November 2025 JW broadcast. It seemed almost mundane, like a vanilla wafer on the surface. But if you are truly paying attention, the lies and the deceit and the ruined lives are littered throughout the just under 1 hour program. It all looks so appetizing, Jeff. And going back to how noted liar Geoffrey Jackson opened this spiritual feast, well, I'm reminded of a quote, as I often am. It's again about how personal eating truly is. It comes to us from English writer Virginia Woolf when she said this, quote, "One cannot think well, love well, sleep well, if one has not dined well." End quote. If you're going to eat with the governing body of Jehovah's Witnesses, eat at your own risk. I want to thank you for joining me this week. Wherever you may be well.